Good afternoon and welcome to IFC webinars. My name is Richard Miller, your IFC host and representative today for a great afternoon, and please stand by for some great presentations from our presenters. Before we begin, audio is being broadcast using the voice over internet protocol technology through your computer speakers or headset. Please make sure your speakers or headsets are turned on and the volume is turned up. Audience microphones have been muted. If you experience any technical difficulties, please contact IFC support at webinars@ifc.org or via the chat function, and we will do our best to help you out immediately. For the chat and QA and handouts, there are no handouts today, but the chat and the Q&A are available. We encourage everyone to utilize that chat function. It's in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. The menus are right there. You can drop in, and we encourage you to put in your questions and let us know who's here. In the chat function, tell us where you're from. Helps us better identify and serve your needs throughout the webinar. Today's sponsor for the webinar is 1-800-BOARD-UP, and this is a continual five-bugle partner with the International Association of Fire Chiefs, and we're very thankful for their efforts to continue to provide great valued information to fire chiefs around the country. Today's webinar is focused on the fourth fire incident priority, and we're going to go over a bunch of great information presented from your presenters today by 1-800-BOARD-UP. And I'd like to first start introduce the 1-800-BOARD-UP representative, Chief Tony Young. And Chief, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard. Listen, I hope that everyone had a wonderful Easter weekend. At 1-800-BOARD-UP, we're extremely excited to be partnering with the IFC webinar series to discuss the fourth incident priority today. I'm always happy to spend time with Chief Mark Burdick, who's going to be on here with us today. He's been one of our masters of ceremonies at the Chief Summit Educational Symposium for the past 2 years in Islamorada, Florida, and he's become a very good friend of ours. I'm proud to say that I've been a member of the IFC since 1998, and I've been to every one of our conferences since 1998, other than I missed the Charlotte one due to a health issue that I had. But we will be back this year again. Richard said it, we're a five-bugle corporate partner, and our booth number at the FRI conference is booth number 1826 this year. And I really hope that that we see everybody there at the conference. So again, a little bit about me. Retired from the Oklahoma City Fire Department in 2008, spent 26 years there with Oklahoma City. Worked my way up through the operations division, retiring as a deputy fire chief and the public information officer. Also worked on our hazmat team from the inception until my retirement. Worked for some time with Homeland Security at the Center for Domestic Preparedness, teaching hazmat classes and incident command classes around the country. And then I was fortunate enough to be hired as one of the very first 10 fire officers for 1-800-BOARD-UP in retirement. And so I'm now Senior Vice President of Operations for 1-800-BOARD-UP. I love my time that I've been here with 1-800-BOARD-UP. It's a continuation of truly of what we did as firefighters, with the exception that we can go beyond, above and beyond what we were able to do when we had to go back to the fire station, right? And we weren't able to take care of that victim assistance priority, which is kind of what we're talking about today. So with that being said, I'm going to go forward and introduce Chief Mark Burdick. Chief Burdick, he is the fire chief at the Arizona Fire and Medical Authority, also the former fire chief at Buckeye Valley Fire District. He has more than 40 years in the fire service, and Mark returned to the Arizona Fire and Medical Authority as the fire chief in 2022. He previously served as fire chief for the Buckeye Valley Fire District located in western Maricopa County from 2019 to 2022. As fire chief of the AFM Authority, Mark supervises this all-hazards department operating 11 fire stations, 15 ambulances through 3 battalions with approximately 300 total personnel. Chief Burdick is a recognized public speaker and acts as master of ceremonies for the annual Chief Summit Educational Symposium, and he served as president then as a member of the executive board with the Arizona Fire Chiefs Association until his retirement. In 2011, he was chosen as the Chief Officer of the Year by the AFCA. In 2017, he was inducted into the Arizona Fire Service Hall of Fame. How outstanding is that? So, Chief Burdick, I'm going to turn it over to you. And just for everyone out there listening today, this is going to be somewhat interactive. Chief Burdick is going to lead the webinar, but I'm going to be there to answer some questions and offer support. So go ahead, Chief Burdick.
Well, thank you, Chief Young. I appreciate that introduction very much. And I will say it's an honor and privilege to be here. I am frustrated, though. I thought being in the fire service for 40 years was a pretty good accomplishment, but you beat me by a year. I keep pointing that out. 41 years for your service, so thank you. So today, talking about the adding a fourth incident priority. The reason we're here today is to expand on what Chief Brunosini started in 1995 in his book, The Essentials of Fire Department Customer Service. And we want to kind of go through as a brief background to talk about what the 3 incident priorities are. We'll get to that in just a second. But typically what's on the slide now talks about what happens in his jurisdiction. And I don't want to sit and read off the slides. I'll let you go through it. But we've all experienced it. Anybody who's been out on the fire ground, somebody has it doesn't even have to be a catastrophic fire in their house. They can have a room and contents fire and end up with a house full of smoke that ruins things inside their residence. A lot of their, clothing, some of the personal belongings can be damaged, or they have a significant fire and they've got the damage is even worse. So we do all the things we do, again, referencing, and we'll talk more, but referencing the book. Chief Brunosini talked about setting up an occupant services sector. And that was really good for not only a single resident, but also for, some type of a commercial structure where we're impacting business and we want to make sure that business is able to open their doors again. So what do? We put the fire out, we bring in the investigator, we pack up our trucks and we say, here you go. And the owner says, my God, what do I do now? And we say, call your insurance company. And that's kind of typically as far as we go. So we want to talk about these priorities. So in his book, James Smith talked about the 3 incident priorities. Priority 1 is life safety, 2 is incident stabilization, and 3 is property conservation. So let's walk through these real quick. Life safety. We always are concerned about, obviously, our firefighters, how well they're doing. We want to make sure we get any citizens out of the fire and out of harm's way. It talks about other public safety personnel. Sometimes we have law enforcement, ambulance company, somebody that engages, and we want to make sure that they're kept safe from the fire, as well as any utility workers who come in to secure utilities, that type of thing. And then we talk about the onlookers, or basically the people that are coming in doing their best to help, but they end up being part of the problem, not part of the solution. So we know that first and foremost, we protect those. And really, this is just a basic review of these. Then we move into incident stabilization. Now, this is where we talk about getting into a little bit more of where we're leading today's conversation. We want to make sure we put the fire out. Obviously, we stop the forward spread, put it out, treat any of the victims, make sure that they're okay. Again, these are our incident priorities. And finally, if there's any hazardous materials involved, we want to certainly contain it, stop the spread, and mitigate that risk to the community. So that's where we talk about stabilization. So first, life safety, then we want to stabilize. And then finally, property conservation. Proper ventilation, depending on the type and style that you use in your jurisdiction. We want to make sure we, again, evacuate as much of the damaging, causing smoke as possible, get it off the backs of the firefighters, all those things that we do. We want to minimize water damage, use what it takes to control the fire, put it out, make sure that we aren't adding to that. There are times I've been on house fires myself where guys felt if a little bit of water is good, a lot's got to be better, and we float the contents out the door. We're trying to work on that. I know everybody is. And then salvage and overhaul. And I'll tell you, looking at the customer service book that Bruno wrote, many years ago, we used to go in and do a lot of salvage and overhaul for the customer. And then there was a phase in the Metro Phoenix area where we said, gee, the insurance pays for that. So we just kind of left it and did minimal to address the damage, walk the homeowner through, let them see what used to be their house and all their contents from their years of living there, and again, say, call your insurance company. We've kind of circled back in this region and done a little bit better on the salvage and overhaul, trying to cover up what we can, protect the valuables we can, and then doing a little bit of mitigation so that the homeowner can at least wander through their house and take out what is still of value to them. But that's where it stopped. So we talk about these priorities, and we say 3 under property conservation, we've done a good job. Well, actually, the question is, does our job end there? Is that as far as we go? We've extinguished it. All of a sudden, we start rolling up our hose, putting it back on the truck, packing everything up, get all our tools and equipment. The fire's out. We check for hot spots. And then the goal of the engine companies and the ladder companies is to get back in service. So what's proposed here, and I appreciate Chief Young stealing a lot of his information here, that when we get done on a medical call, we usually make sure to the degree possible that everybody's taken care of, right? And the family members, we try to address all that. On a fire call, again, we sort of guide them to make a phone call to their insurance agent. We say, maybe we're kind enough to say, do you have their number? We'll call them for you. And then we walk away, and this is where we leave Mrs. Smith. In Bruno's vernacular, we say, here you are looking at what used to be my home of 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And again, there's not a lot we can do, right? Now, some jurisdictions have crisis response units or some type of a unit that can respond out and help them. Some places will get a hold of Red Cross, we'll do things like that. But those resources may be hours away. Chief Young, you've commented before on the Red Cross response. What is it in your area, how you get Red Cross out there?
Yeah, Chief. So, Red Cross, it's not very consistent around the country. We love Red Cross, donated a lot of money over my years and did charity events with Red Cross as well. Love what they do. But they're just not very consistent. In the Oklahoma County area, if you call Red Cross and you tell them that you have some fire victims that need some help, the first thing they're going to ask you is, do they have insurance? And in our territory, they say, if they have insurance, have them call their insurance company. If they don't have insurance, then they will come out and assist them. And or if it's a multifamily dwelling, they will come out. Now, again, don't get me wrong. We love Red Cross. We've done a lot of work with them, again, with their charities and things like that. But, it's just different in different parts of the country. They're really being squeezed as well financially. So even in some of the jurisdictions that we talk to, we have over 100 offices nationwide now. And the offices that we talk to, sometimes it's 2 or 3 hours after the fact before they can get out there. And so again, that's the thing about 1-800-BOARD-UP is we can be there within an hour. And not only can we take away that liability risk that exists for them and the insurance company by leaving that home open and vacant, but we can also provide victim assistance. And that includes our victims bags, right? We go in and get any of their heirlooms, any of their belongings that they need to get out that evening or that day. And again, what a lot of people don't realize is the insurance company, and we all have them, right? But the insurance company normally is, on an average, is going to be 48 to 96 hours away before they actually show up with a consultant from their company on scene. And so, again, Red Cross is just a little bit different there. I'm not sure how it works in your market there, Chief.
Yeah, and they'll respond, but you're right. They're limited in what they can do. They'll provide the help and the resources, and we agree. It's a fantastic resource, and if you've got them available, certainly use them. It's another aspect that you can use. I think, Chief Young, you point out something important there, though, that I wasn't aware of, and that is that insurance companies, when we say call your insurance agent and walk away and feel good about it, we thought we did something good because we were able to direct them to some sort of resource. You just said sometimes 48 to 96 hours. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I fully believe, Chief Brady, in my years of being a battalion chief and even as a deputy chief, I really felt confident that the insurance company would be there, within the next 4 to 8 hours anyway. And they're just, hey, they're minimally staffed too. They're crunching their numbers and they're putting more and more on their adjusters But on an average, it's 48 to 96 hours before they get there. One other thing I wanted to point out, Chief, is that almost every homeowner's insurance policy, and the same goes for commercial, there's actually a portion of their contract in there about securing that home and take away that liability risk. So it is covered under your insurance. And so, that's something that, again, it's just education, right? Educating our fire officers, police, law enforcement, emergency managers. Even we get call from all emergency responders, but most of them just need to be educated about exactly what's going on the fire scene, or maybe it's a vehicle into their home or storm damage, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue into this. This is what we're proposing now, is that we consider the fourth incident priority. So, life safety, stabilize, right? And then we get into, mitigate. Then we get into this, which is, and you just said about the education piece, which is critical. So we educate, secure, and protect, right? ESP, if we can remember that as a fourth priority, I think it's really important to build off. For me personally, because I got a chance to, I worked, my bio, you talk about, I spent 32 years with the city of Glendale, which is a suburb of Phoenix. And I got to spend a lot of time with Alan Bernasini over the years. And, this piece of customer service, I think if Bruno was alive today, he'd be engaged in this furtherance of how we take care of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Very, very important to him, foundational piece of his concept of writing a book about customer service, because just the fire service, we're beloved by the masses, and they say, what a terrific job. You risk your lives, you put my house out. But how do we help that person get through that trauma and come out on the other side, I guess, as well as can be? Just like we talk about PTSD for our members, what about PTSD for our victims, right? So this ESP kind of ties into the PTSD, if you will, that trying to use loosely an analogy there, to educate, secure, and protect. One of the things it talks about is, it says on the slide, change is difficult. One of my screensavers is Bruno saying that the two things firefighters hate is the way things are and change. And so it is tough for the fire service to look at this. And so then I know people online right now may be saying, well, Chief, maybe in your neck of the woods, you've got all the resources, you can lead people around. That's not what we're saying here. We don't. What we're talking about are the next items here. Educate. So one is you've got to let your customer, that Mrs. Smith, know that they have to secure that property. There's an attractive nuisance law, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But well, it's right there. But you talk about most communities have attractive nuisance ordinances that if you leave that open and a young child wanders in there and gets injured or killed, you're responsible. So we all know that you've got to secure the property. What's really important here is that we tell them the need to secure, but then also how to do it. So it's one thing to tell them on top of that picture, that woman standing there with her hands on her head going, what do I do? And then you say, well, you got to secure the property. What resources are out there? Now, 1-800 Board Up is an easy number to remember. You can call that, but there's a lot of restorations companies out there. We're not here, trying to promote one or the other. 1-800 Board Up is very convenient, though, that you call that, and there's a local service provider that will come out, Chief Young mentioned a minute ago, within an hour and help them to secure that property. The other thing is, what type of other assistance is there? Board Up provides victim assistance such as housing, meals. They can give them a bag of some basic essentials. They can provide them even up to clergy if they need it. They have connections to these things, and that's what I like about in our area. We've used 1-800 Board Up exclusively, and I'll talk about that towards the end, how any jurisdiction can go about that. But we've used them for years. A lot of departments have after the fire booklets. If you don't, Board Up has those. They can provide those, give them those steps. And then I think you hit it earlier that the thing to talk about is to look at their policy and see what they can do to provide those resources. I like what you said, Chief Young, about this is not something that they pay for. If they've got the coverage, it's billed. But one other thing I want to point out real quick is that 1-800 Board Up in our area, they don't call and say, there are some Board Up companies that say, well, do you have insurance or not? With the board up service we have, they don't question the insurance coverage. They come out, they secure, and then they find that information out. Is that true with board up, Chief?
That's absolutely correct. We do the training classes about every 2 months, and every person that comes through our training classes are educated in that. But with that being said, Chief, and I want everybody out there to understand, just like your helicopter medical services or ambulance services or tow trucks or whatever else, we've got to make money, right? So we can't just have 100% of all calls, not have insurance. So we've had a couple of our offices that said, oh, well, we're how firemen are, we're going to test them, right? And we will take care of it. We say we're going to take care of it, but at the end of the day, we want to be there to help all of our citizens, right? And one of the couple of things that we haven't really mentioned yet is that, like I said, it's billed directly to the insurance company. But how nice would it be? We have over 130 retired fire officers that work for 1-800 Board Up in the local markets. How nice would it be for you as the incident commander to turn that over to one of the former fire officers there and say, hey, let us know if we need to come back, or maybe we lost a piece of equipment or whatever. Can you look for it? But not only knowing that if they find that equipment, they're going to get it back to you, but also for the next 2 to 4 hours, they're going to be on the scene and make sure that we don't have a rekindle on that property. So there's so many little nuances to our program that other companies just can't offer. And so that's why we think that we're above and beyond what anybody else can provide.
Well, I agree. And I mean, and we're kind of co-hosting this webinar right now. And some people say, well, this sounds like a shameless plug for 1-800 Board Up. For me, it is, because I'll just come out and say that because I've used them for must be about 15 years now that we've had Board Up as available to us. So we talk about the education and where this, and I'll get into this now. We talk about securing the property and being able to protect what's left of the home. Again, even if it's room and contents fire that did not that much fire damage, but a lot of smoke damage, they can't live in it. They have to go somewhere else. What we found is through our own crisis response and in partnership with Board Up, because 1-800 Board Up will help provide our crisis unit with supplies, with things that they need. And they do things like, the hotel voucher, motel voucher, where they can go spend the night. I don't know if people have thought about that across the nation, but I think that's a very important piece, that they've got somewhere they can go, especially if utilities have secured the power and there's no way for them to stay in that home.
Right. Hey, Chief Burdick. Hey, Chief, one other thing I wanted to mention. Another one of our, so we're a 5 Bugle corporate partner with the IFC. We're also a corporate partner with the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. And I'm saying that to say this. We've talked twice now about room and contents fires. And what we've got to understand is a lot of times we don't necessarily have to pull the electric meter on that, right? So now the homeowners are tempted to stay in that home. And what I want everybody to understand, and you can verify this through the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, but elderly people, which I'm starting to fit into that realm now, right? Elderly people and young children are like 80% more likely to come down with some type of a cancer by staying in and living in one of those type of conditions. And so that's something that I've actually learned just by being a partner with the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. So again, we can check our facts later, but get with the Firefighter Cancer Support Network or do your research online. But that's what we've been educated with.
No, I think that's an excellent point. It really is, because our job is to make sure that we don't put them in a hazardous environment, and the same thing we don't want our guys to do. And when you said that mentioned that about like room contents, I want to point out the same thing can happen in any commercial structure in anybody's jurisdiction. That I always look at it this way: that those folks that got some mom and pop shop in a strip mall that have a fire, they're paying taxes, right? They pay your permit fees, they pay your inspection fees if you have them. I mean, they help pay our bills. So the faster we help them get back up and running, the better. So again, it's securing the site. One of the things I want to point out at this point that was why I'm so adamant about this and why this is such an important tool for us is, as I mentioned, not everybody has the financial resources in their jurisdiction to stand up extra units like a crisis response or something like that. They can come in and help somebody. What I found that was the best attribute that 1-800 Board Up brought to the door for us, in every jurisdiction I've worked in now, and I've mentioned I've been in several here in the greater Phoenix area. They respond out, and when they secure that property, they assume the liability for that property. And I can't emphasize this enough. We used to leave a crew on scene. We'd set them up through the alarm room to do a fire watch. They'd come back and wake them up 4 or 5 times a night and have them drive down, look and make sure there's no hot spots. Sometimes we'd leave an investigator on the scene, looking through the debris by themselves. And it might not always be the nicest place in town to be at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're out there rifling through stuff, with just a little stand-up light and a flashlight. When Board Up arrived on the scene, and I wasn't aware of this for several years when I was chief in Glendale, until our local service provider gave me the information. They said, hey, we take the liability. When our guys show up, you're good to go. We used to ask the police department to come and post an officer to secure the facility and watch it. Well, now, and this is, again, extremely important, especially for the communities that are financially challenged like we are, you can turn that over to the Board Up team that gets there, and they take the responsibility. They assume the liability. You guys, your guys can pack up and leave. So on that note, I want to, before we move on to the protect piece, is I want to describe this. We ended up doing a request for proposal. Now, again, depending on your local procurement laws, depending on what you have in your community, you can do, there's RF, whatever, fill in every letter of the alphabet behind that, depending on your finance department or whoever is running your money. They'll say, well, you have to do an RFI, an RFQ, an RFP. Again, put the letter there. We did a request for proposal, and we put certain markers in there. We said you have to have a 1-hour response time. We wanted them to be able to, while the guys were wrapping up the last of the hose, that we got somebody there that they would secure and make sure it was adequately secured and take that liability off of us. When we ended up presenting this to our local council, they were thrilled with the fact that they were putting a police officer back on patrol. They were putting a fire truck back in service, all because one of the requirements that they agreed to when they won the contract award was that they would, again, assume that liability and secure that property. Why we did the RFP was because I want to talk about this for a second too. A lot of jurisdictions, they're concerned about, well, how do we just deal with one entity? I suggest, I think the fast way is for you to come up with some type of a proposal that you can do a sole source contract with, and see what your local restoration companies can do. 1-800 Board Up won it every time that we did it, and we did it probably. I think we awarded that, put that contract out for bid, I think 3 times while I was the chief there, and 1-800 Board Up was successful because nobody else could meet what they could do. That's important also, because I even had fire investigators that said, well, we kind of have to rotate it around. You do if you don't use your procurement process and do what you need to secure a single source. What that did for us, and I'll tell you, in the Phoenix region, 22 cities are dispatched by the Phoenix Fire Department. So the poor dispatchers had to run through and figure out whose turn it was to call, what company they would call. When we did that, it made it very, very easy, and a number of jurisdictions jumped on board, and it was just send 1-800 Board Up. The other thing that was nice that for us was when our investigators were out there, once they arrived on the scene, they took a look around. They said, we're just going to call 1-800 Board Up right now. And they got them rolling. So it makes it fast, convenient, and then they provide all this extra service that we talk about. And they also have a policy that they will assist the homeowner, but they don't do the typical, guys used to call them vultures, these independent companies that would come out and just start harassing the homeowner to sign a contract right on the spot. And 1-800 Board Up usually takes a much more cautious approach on that. They understand they're under duress, and so they don't do that. So that's another piece that I think has really been beneficial for us in our area. So the one other thing here, it talks about Firewatch. Number of times we have not had to set up a fire watch because the Board of Police said, hey, we'll be here for 4 or 5 hours. We'll take a look, and they will knock down any hot spots themselves. They're not firefighters. they've taken on that. They've got, extinguishers, they got the shovels, whatever they have to do. And the firefighters love it because it's not a call back at 4 a.m. to come out and douse a little smoldering ember that a neighbor saw and was concerned with. The board up crew does it right on the spot. So again, they take care of that. So if I can highlight, and I'll get into protect in just a second, but when you talk about the educate and secure, these two are really, really key components of what 1-800 Board Up offers for us in our area. I can speak to that. And I think Chief Young, you can speak about that because I think it's pretty consistent across the nation, correct?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So this is where we talk again about the attractive nuisance doctrine, and we talk about protecting. And so we want to make sure that homeowner knows, and even the business owner. There's a lot of businesses and Chief Young mentioned earlier that if the power's still on, they're going to try to keep their business running. And if there's some component of damage that was done, we had it's funny, we had a little place in town that was a hot dog place. It was around for about 30 years in a little building. And one day there was an auto accident, drove a car into the drive-through portion, but went into the building. And those people were so frustrated, the owners, that they said they wanted to get back up and running as quickly as possible. And they were trying to get back into the building when it was basically structurally insecure. And I'll tell you why, again, I love 1-800 Board Up is they came out, they responded, they worked with the building owner, the property owner, and the owner of the hot dog store, basically the hot dog restaurant. And they worked with them. And I think it was about, I don't think they were quite shut down for a day. They were able to clean it up, stabilize it, and then they walled off the portion that was at risk, and they actually helped them set up another drive-through area. It was pretty amazing operation. I wish we would have chronicled it, but the only way I really knew about the follow-up was because they wrote a letter and said how great it was, and they felt that the crew there, the 1-800 Board Up crew, was an extension of our fire department. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So great work.
Hey, Chief, just so you know, most of our offices have a structural engineer either working for them direct or somebody on speed dial. And so an instance just like that, if it's not structurally sound, we can get that person out there that actually has the legal, the expertise from working through the degree and actually has their license to do it, to actually guide us to what we need to do as well. So we have some offices that have them on staff and others that we have them on speed dial. So, yeah.
That's even better, because that's one of the key components of being able to take care of that, again, that business owner as quickly as possible. And I think this lays out pretty, standard of what the attractive nuisance is. And one of the bullets here that I want to point out is landowners should have known the condition would attract children. That should have is really a dangerous place for all of us to be. And anybody in the fire service needs to know that hangs on us if we leave the scene as well. I mean, it's a public body that gets there, and we're the experts and are supposed to render that safe. And I'll tell you, another interesting call we had when we talk about this is, and you mentioned earlier about insurance. We had an incident in our area that we had a home that got into an insurance battle. 1-800 Board Up came out, secured the property, fenced it, boarded up. Well, over a period of time, it sat idle, and some homeless folks were able to, find a way through the fence in the back and the backyard, and they peeled the boards off the back and took up occupancy inside that structure. And when I talk about a matter of time, I think it was 6 or 8 months after this house fire. And again,
right,
people don't realize how long it takes to get some of these settlements, and they were fighting away. Well, point is, I called 1-800 Board Up and said, hey, is there anything you guys can do to help us? We'll coordinate with PD. They arrived on the scene. They sent a crew, arrived on the scene with PD. PD rousted the folks out of there from squatting, and Board Up re-secured that building and stayed on top of it until it was finally fixed. And I'll tell you, I honestly don't know if Board Up got the job or not, but they stayed there and they did it free of charge, and helped secure it. Our police department uses them all the time. They absolutely love them. And that's another thing I want to point out. Law enforcement does far more breaches and window breakings and things when they go in that we forget about. And when we did this contract, we did it not just for the fire department, we did it for building safety, the fire department, and our local police department. And they're called out on for all three departments in the city, and worked out tremendously for us because, again, it was consistent, it was easy, and PD will, like I say, they'll kick a door in or break a window or something to get in, and then they just make a quick call to board up, and they come out and they secure the facility. So
Right.
this is a liability that's hanging over us that we need to be aware of, and I think a lot of jurisdictions aren't aware of what their what the requirements are. If you're not, please do. And then consider, again, a service like this, because it's a force multiplier for us. And when you don't have the resource to leave on scene, if you've got, again, a tight economy, or you've got an area where there's just not a lot of you there and you need to be available for calls, these local service providers come out and take that liability. They take on that security, and they relieve your crews and let them go back in service. So it's just a fantastic tool to have in your toolbox.
Yeah. Hey, Chief Burdick, just so you know, most of our offices also have a hold harmless agreement with that they can provide to the cities.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's something that we're still working on, because every state has to have, certain language or whatever. But the majority of our offices already have a hold harmless agreement that they can provide to the fire department, police department, even dispatchers and emergency managers. Right. But so just wanted you to be aware of that too.
No, I see, and this is just more information that is provided is better. And I just look at this as another aspect of this is it's a public-private partnership. And I know we talk about these and people say, well, how do I enter into that type of a public-private partnership? Well, I think, again, from our experience and why I'm why I wanted to come on this webinar really was to talk about this, to reach out to departments that may be trying to figure out, again, how they stretch their resources. Well, we do public-private partnerships all the time. I always joke when the guys get a little bit nervous about it. I mentioned earlier our investigators were nervous about calling an exclusive agency, and when we got the RFP done and awarded the contract, it gave them that degree of comfort that they weren't going to get into trouble for preferring one company over the other. So if that's what you need in your area, but it is a true public-private partnership. In our area, they have reached out. They've helped our firefighter charities. I mean, they are actively engaged with us, and it's not like just a vendor. And I know sometimes that's a bad word out there, because we don't want to consider our partners vendors. We want to consider them true partners, and that's how it's worked for us. It's been amazing. We've got tremendous support when we need it, and always, like I say, the 1 hour response time is something you just can't beat. This is where I'd like to get to this point that we review this and talk about Chief Smith's book that talked about the 3 incident priorities and consider adding this 4th one. So you've got the property conservation phase 3 is, to what degree is that property conservation done? Is it secured? Have we left the homeowner in a place, or the business owner, where they know exactly what next steps are? Do you have that person or people that can remain on the scene to provide that service, or do you want to reach out to somebody who can help you? And again, my emphasis here is we've used this public-private partnership. We've leveraged it in a lot of different ways, and has worked out to our favor every time. Again, freed up our resources, taken the liability away from us so we don't have to worry about it, and then provided support to us in other ways. And when I was with the city, we did have a crisis response unit, and they would come in and arrive on the scene. I want you to know they ended up working in partnership with the board up crews. And then in turn, what board up did for us was whenever board up would say, how are your supplies on that crisis unit? Well, they're a little thin, and we'd rely heavily on donations from the community. And, after a while, those start to wane, and the Whenever Board of Partnership has always been able to provide something there, or even provide service that we didn't have. So it's been a really tremendous advantage to us. So when you arrive on a scene, you think about what our priorities are. Obviously, life safety, always stabilize the incident, preserve, protect the property, but then or do the property conservation. But then the fourth incident priority is really this: educate, secure, and protect. And the educate, again, is something we can do, but it's a heck of a lot easier to have a good partner that you just turn over that education. And instead of saying, call your insurance agent, get on the truck and drive away, you say, hang on, we've got somebody right here. By the way, you mentioned about the retired chief officers. In a lot of jurisdictions, that's who Board Up hires, is folks that are knowledgeable in the fire service. They speak firemanese. They can walk over and talk to the fire truck, the representatives on that fire truck, the men and women that serve, and say, hey, we'll take over. Here's what we can do. And they give that degree of comfort to your crew, that they know that that individual knows what they're doing. They're not just there to, put up plywood and fencing. They actually know to take the next steps and help that resident or that business owner get back in service.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, another degree of that public-private partnership that you talked about. Two things, really. We do a ton of work with our local agencies. And again, whether it's fire, police, sheriff's department, emergency managers, whatever that case may be, we're always the first ones to jump in there and help them with any type of training classes that they want to have, right? Whether it's countywide, citywide, whatever the case may be. We love giving back. And on the other side, from the charity standpoint, we've given back over $13 million to fire and police charities since 2008. And that's something that we're probably more proud of than anything else. We love being involved in our community. We're not going anywhere, right? All we're doing is getting bigger. We're getting ready to move international. And so I love the job that I do. I love being a fire officer, a firefighter. But let me tell you something, we're able to help our citizens in a bigger way than what we were able to do as firefighters. And I just hope that everybody that's watching this today can understand that that there's absolutely nothing wrong with a public-private relationship. And get with your local 1-800 Board Up reps. We can educate you guys on how we can go forward, just like you did, Chief Burdick.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And Chief Bernardini, I'll tell you, he always again believed in what we can do to further the fire service, make Mrs. Smith's, Mr. and Mrs. Smith's, tragedy better to endure, I guess, easier to endure, whatever the term is that you want to pick there. But that's why I say kind of the PTSD piece of it for that homeowner, that business owner. He wrote this book in 1995, and I read through it occasionally. It's amazing how evergreen the book is. It just his principles and his points that he brought up are still alive today. I tell you, in my conversations with him, if he were alive today, and I talked about this, I know Chief Bernardini would say it's the best move we can make to ensure that, again, we reduce the tragedy of the situation to our customer. And I think that was, one of the greatest things about Bruno was how much he valued every person. I mean, every single person. There was an old story that he stood outside and talked to a homeless individual one time for about 45 minutes, carried on a conversation with him. And the guy walked away, happy and laughing because Bruno treated that person with value. And that's how he feels about the customer after a fire, is what do we do to get them back on their feet and get them as, in as great a place as we can. So that's what today's webinar is about, is that fourth incident priority, that fact that we don't just walk away. If you have the capability in your agency to do more, I think that's fantastic. If you don't, again, I'm very, very pleased with the service we've had for 15 years or more with 1-800 Board Up. They have been an excellent partner. And again, we talk about owing our citizens all that we can do. And I think that's the critical piece of this, is that we provide that extra effort and add this fourth incident priority to just be able to partner with somebody so that they're not left standing there going, what the heck is next? All right, Chief Young, that's about it. I think if there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain.
Chief, that was great information. We do have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask, if that's okay. Could you talk a little bit more about the connection with crisis teams and how best to establish those relationships in advance, so that it's an easier transition with connecting the 1-800 board up and your local crisis team.
I think that's an excellent point, Chief. We need to do that. That's a great thing. I think if you reach out to your local service provider, they have, through Board Up, they can pinpoint who those individuals are. And I love what you said there. I love that question, because it is really important, especially if you've awarded a contract to a sole source provider, that if you have a crisis unit, that you set up a meeting so they can meet face to face. Just like everything we've learned in Homeland Security, it's better to know the players before the incident. So I agree. You set up a meeting, let them discuss what the roles are. You don't want somebody to come in and start to get into that turf battles by any means, because this is an extension of service, not meant to be something where, oh, you're taking my job by any means. Crisis response units have enough to do. So I think that's a great point. They should try to meet beforehand, establish that relationship, and talk about what they can do to enhance each other's service.
Yeah. And one of the things that we've done in some of our cities that have these crisis teams, Chief, is that we've actually provided them with our victims bags at no cost, and just said, hey, if they want to use our services afterwards, that's fine. We'll be there for them. But to provide those victim assistance bags for them after a fire, we've done that with a lot of our crisis teams around the country as well. One thing I think would be remiss if we didn't mention that, we get hung up because we're the fire department, right? And this is the International Fire Chiefs, but some of the things that we respond on, other things than just fires, right? Floods, storm damage, vehicles into buildings, mold remediation, biohazard cleanup. We really are a one-stop shop. And even the office that you work with there in Phoenix, Chief, I know that one of the chiefs in the metro asked for a crane. Within 6 hours, they had a crane on site, right? Now, I'm not saying every one of our offices have cranes, but we truly want to be that one-stop shop. If our fire officers or police or law enforcement dispatchers, if they need something, we're going to do everything within our powers to help you guys out and to get you the equipment and the resources that you guys need.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chief.
No, I was going to say, our one of your Board Up provider told me one time, we were talking about, it's funny that City Hall, the basement flooded, and he got some pumps and they pumped it out. And I said, man, you have the capability. This was a very large building, 4-story building. And he said, I could pump out Lake Mead if you just give me a few hours to get the right equipment. So yeah, that was pretty impressive.
You can do it all. Yeah.
One of the participants asked about the RFPs that you spoke of earlier, and there's some samples available. IFC has the IFC Knowledge Net that chiefs can share information. So that's a place where those could be placed, or does 1-800 Board Up have a link to, sample RFPs that would be very valuable?
We do. We actually, 1-800 Board Up has a vault, and we have some RFPs, RFQs, RFIs, like the chief said, put whatever letter at the end you want. But we've got those dating all the way back to 2008, as a matter of fact, from different agencies all around the country. And so if they want to reach out to me, I don't know, when you send this back out to everybody, will our contact information be on there, Richard?
The 1-800 Board Up contact information is available.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, we'd be more than glad to work with you folks any way that we can to get you the information you need. And we don't have offices in every city, but we're trying to get there, right? We're growing rapidly. And like I said, we're getting ready to go international as well. So
great. I want to go back to the Red Cross real quick. And maybe this is just an East Coast, West Coast kind of thing. But in our region here on the East Coast, Red Cross has a after the fire cleanup bucket that is available to provide to individuals who've had an incident. And it contains, some basic things, a little simple Tyvek suit, but a cleaning brush and some disinfectant. Is that something that you've dealt with in the past?
So I have not dealt with that in the past. I'm pretty sure that some of our offices have. And like I said, a lot of our offices work very, very closely with Red Cross, right? A lot of times Red Cross is not called and we are. And so there we'll turn and call them to come and help as well. But yeah, the bucket sounds a lot like our victims bag. And we love anything that we can provide for our citizens after, one of the most traumatic events they'll ever have in their life. we're all for it. And we'd be even willing to work with Red Cross on doing charity work for them to help raise more money so they can provide more of those. Absolutely.
Yeah, in our area, and I'm talking Fairfax, Virginia, we actually got an AFG to build 10 of the buckets and had them available, and kept a couple of them on some service units so that, we had an immediate deployment available. We used the Red Cross list of what was in there to put out, and we actually reached out to a local vendor, a Home Depot, and they actually shared in the cost of this, and so we were able to get some, again, community support because they recognize the importance of helping those in need. So some great questions continue to flow in here. So Chief, what other recommendations do you think would be of value to other chief officers to how best to link into resources such as 1-800 Board Up?
From my aspect, I think the easiest thing is just to again look at the website. Chief Young talked about there's the vault. They're available. There's a lot of information available on their website. You can call them directly and get that information. And I do think see what your local area has. Chief Young, I can kick it to him about the communities in, but he said over 100 communities, so that's a pretty broad representation. And it might be you could talk to, if there's not a local service provider in your area, there might be one nearby, and they're interested in getting that area if there's any interest in it. Again, I think that's like I say, a key component of this public-private partnership is that you do that outreach and find out who's available in your area and contact them. And I do appreciate, I want to comment back on the Red Cross. I think the Red Cross, again, does a fantastic job. But as you talked about that bucket, unfortunately, the Red Cross is not in the business to secure or stabilize. And so that's why these, whoever your restoration company is, 1-800 Board Up or not, that's a key component that you establish that relationship with them. So I agree, reach out, find out all you can, and learn about what they can and can't do before you get in there. One other quick thing is Chief Young mentioned about the biohazard cleanup, and we've had that as well, where people are scratching their heads after a tragic accident, and you could one call to Board Up and they come out and they take care of that as well. So that's why I say it's kind of a one-stop shop. Why it's important to figure that out.
Chief, there's one thing I failed to mention. We also have our 1-800 Board Up app that you can download on your iPhone or Android, and that's simply just setting it up and then pushing a button, and it geolocates our company to wherever the emergency might be. We also just posted on our Facebook page today, our marketing team, that it is International Dispatchers Day. So, hey, thank you for everything you do for all the dispatchers out there. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing if they didn't do what they did, right? They do such a wonderful job, and so we want to recognize all of our dispatchers around the country and in the world, right, internationally. So,
absolutely, unsung heroes. I'll tell you, you absolutely are.
No, that's great. You talked earlier about those RFPs, and I know in our region we utilized a sort of just a working sheet list of various companies that could help. And obviously 1-800 Board Up was on there, but it was just a reference sheet to take the fire department out of that conundrum of not connecting a direct company and make it broad. But obviously if you've got those established relationships earlier, we were always connecting to the ones that were in the local area.
Right. Yeah. In our request for qualifications that we send out, we have 26 different items that we feel like are extremely important to getting your citizens back on their feet, right? Not just getting them on their feet, but the qualifications that we bring to the table too. Okay. And so we have 26 different things there that I would say that most of the other companies, they might do 4 or 5 of those things. We have set ourselves apart because we're fire officers, right? Like I said, we have over 140 fire officers across the United States that are doing this job. And so every one of them is NIMS 100, 200, and 700 qualified, but not just the fire officers. Our Board Up crews are trained in that as well, right? And so we'd be more than willing to share that with anybody. You can always create a list, but are we creating an equal list, right? Is everybody going to step up and provide that victim assistance, whether they're insured or uninsured? Is every one of them going to put them up in a hotel, right? So we have our qualifications at a high level, again, because they were adopted and put in place by our fire officers from around the country that all work together to make us the best. So,
No, that's exactly what I was thinking of, Chief, and that's really important to ensure the value of who you're dealing with, and extremely valuable with 1-800 Board Up. So that's
absolutely
a great thing. I don't have any other questions in the queue, Chief. I know we're getting pretty close to winding up the interview, the webinar. Would you like to sort of wind down, and then I don't think there's any Q&A, and I'll have some administrative things to talk about after that.
Mark, you want to go first?
Yeah, no, I thank you. I really am honored to be a part of this. Thanks to the IFC. Thanks to 1-800 Board Up. I really appreciate you guys helping get this message out. I think it's a very important message, and I really do. Chief Young, I stole his 4th incident priority on this. He's been an advocate of that, and I agree with it. And I'd like to thank everybody, and just consider however you have to do in your area, adding that 4th incident priority. What you do to make sure the place is secure and that customer has a place to stay.
No. And so I'd just like to say that, again, thank you to the IFC. We've loved the partnership that we've had, like I said, since 2010, the 5 Bugle corporate partnership. It gets us this platform, but it also enables us to do a lot at the FRI conference. I did want to mention too that our owner of 1-800 Board Up will be the keynote speaker this year at the FRI conference on Thursday morning. And hopefully either on Tuesday night or Wednesday night, we're going to try and do a Topgolf charity golf tournament where all the proceeds go to the IFC Scholarship Foundation. So a couple of things in the work that I wanted to make sure that we got out there. But man, we love the partnership with you guys. And if there's anything we can do, obviously going forward, just please reach out and let us know.
Thank you, Chief. That should be a great event in Kansas City this year. We look forward to that. So just a quick note to everyone. Before I say special thanks to 1-800 Board Up, we have a couple upcoming events. Community Risk Reduction Conference, which ties right into this particular topic, and it's constant risk management and evaluation. That's in Murfreesboro here in May. And then we've got our Fire Rescue Med in May. Then we have our Hazmat Conference in Baltimore in June. Then Fire Rescue International, August 16th through the 18th in Kansas City. And then our VCOS Symposium in Clearwater in November. And again, these are some great activities to join us. The event is fully recorded and available for everyone. I'd personally like to thank, on behalf of the IFC, 1-800 Board Up and Chief Burdick for doing a great job today. And we're very appreciative of your time and your efforts to keep our community safe, and as much as our fire service. So thank you all. And this concludes our webinar for today. The recording will be available probably within an hour to 2 hours with all of the information and the contacts for 1-800 Board Up. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks, Chief Burdick.
Thank you both. Thank you very much.